everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny and today I am beginning my December wrap-ups. I was actually watching Kayla from Books and Lala's latest video, which is at this moment is her romance compilation, reading romances, and then I realized that I had not wrapped up my audiobook finish from last week, which was a romance. The Little Bookshop on the Seine by Raisin. So I expressed in my TBR that I'm not a huge romance reader, and that remains true. There were parts of this book that I didn't like, and those parts were mostly the explanation of the romantic feelings between our main character, whose name has completely escaped me right now, Sarah, and Ridge, her love interest. So they're already together in this book. It's not a coming together romance, which for me was probably better, because I'm not as interested in how people connect. This was them experiencing kind of a long distance relationship where he's a journalist and works all over the world, and she was originally in her little bookshop, the bookshop around the corner, I think, in a little town in Massachusetts, and her friend from Paris, who runs the little bookshop, or it's actually called Once Upon a Time, this bookshop along the Seine, asks her if they can switch places, and she runs her shop and the Paris woman goes and runs the other shop right before the holidays because she's had a bad breakup. And so Sarah agrees, and Sarah is a small town girl. She's never gone anywhere else. She's never done anything wild. She's just kind of been a small town girl. But she's always wanted to go to Paris, and she goes. So she encounters a lot of challenges in this book. And what I appreciated about the story was that it wasn't just about her relationship troubles. It was also about her running the shop and the different personalities that she encountered who worked there that she hadn't dealt with before. It was about her learning to be in a new place and adapting to all those changes. And I thought that all of those things were a really entertaining reading experience. I loved the descriptions of Paris. It was lovely to be there. It felt like a world that I was interested in being in for that brief period of time and listening to the book. And it actually really helped me to get through some difficult times, because I could just listen to the book and it would change my mind. I would just listen to the book and be transported instead of dwelling in my own issues at the time. So in terms of being an escapist and enjoyable read, it really was that, and I feel really grateful for that book for that reason. And so overall, I thought the writing was quite good. It was really just I thought the dialogue was pretty good. I thought it was fairly predictable. I kind of knew the different things that were going to happen, and then I was kind of hoping that the love interest, the main character, would actually switch her love interest away from this one guy and go with another, but that didn't happen. So yeah, overall, I found it very entertaining and a really engrossing reading experience. So while I don't think I'll ever become a regular romance reader, I don't think that it's a genre that I could read frequently. It definitely is something that I could see myself in future reading a couple times a year. And I think Rebecca Raisin's work is work that I would read another one of her books, whereas there's other romance writers that I have read previously in past holiday seasons that I would not revisit their work. So that's a win for me. And I will check in again with you when I have finished another book. Hi everyone. So I finished The Girl with No Shadow by Joanne Harris. This is the second book in the Chocolat series. There are 4 books in total. And this one takes place in Montmartre in Paris. So when I visited Paris, I stayed in Montmartre as well. In case you're not familiar with that part of Paris, that's where the Sacré-Cœur church is. It's a pretty famous, and the Moulin Rouge, if you know about that. So I loved that aspect of this story because it really evoked the neighborhood aspect of Montmartre. So people living there, running businesses there, going to the cemetery, like all those things were described here. So this picks up 4 years after the where Chocolat ends, the story of Chocolat ends, and a lot has happened in that time. And this story is told from 3 perspectives. Vianne, who has changed her name to Yann, Anouk, her daughter, and a character named Zosie. And Zosie is also a witch, and she is the kind of, she actually reminded me, when I got to the end of the story, it reminded me of a Mary Poppins figure, except she's not a positive figure. She's mysterious, and you're wondering what her ulterior motives are and what she's trying to do. You know from the beginning that she's kind of nefarious. She steals people's identities and she shapeshifts and morphs, but you don't know the extent to which what she wants to do to Vianne and Anouk's family. And Vianne has another daughter named Rosette, and so the 3 of them are trying to live a quiet life because they've had some run-ins since the first story of Chocolat. They've had some other run-ins that were very scary, and Vianne has vowed to kind of be more plain and more ordinary and just fit into society so that she doesn't stand out and she doesn't have to deal with these difficult scenarios. But one of the themes of the book is to be who, like you can't really hide who you are, and it's not even worth it to hide who you are. It's told on a day-to-day basis, so it starts at Halloween and it ends on Christmas Eve. So that was really nice because it fit in with the time of year very well that I'm reading it now. It was kind of slow in some places because of the various perspectives. So sometimes on the same day you would have a description from all 3 of them about the same day. And I think that it could have done with a little bit more editing, because I think the story would have moved a little bit better for me if there was a bit of the repetition taken out. I found that some of the themes were kind of overemphasized when we already knew what was going on. Then it was just like explaining it again. And I don't think that was necessary. I think that the story held well enough with fewer of those types of kind of laments from the different characters. But overall, I enjoyed the story, and I thought that it had that really fun kind of magical element, folklore references, etc., combined with, a kind of grounded rootedness of the characters. And so I will continue reading on the series. I think it's definitely a great book to read at this time of year, and despite it being a little bit too long, the end really picks up and moves at a better pace. So it's worth kind of getting through the beginning where you're not sure what's actually happening or what exactly Zosie's plan is. And I'm curious to see if Zosie's character reoccurs in the next books, or if that's it for her character. and what happens next in the lives of these witchy women. So that was The Girl with No Shadow, also known as The Lollipop Shoes. So it has two different titles depending on where you are, where it was published. So I'll check in again when I finish another book. Hey everyone, I just wanted to wrap up A Christmas Revelation by Anne Perry. This was my second audiobook of December, and I read another, or I listened to another Christmas novel by her last year, by Anne Perry last year, which I enjoyed, and then I enjoyed this one as well. It was very, it was a little mystery, set in Victorian London, around Squeaky, who is this ruffian turned good guy who does the books for a women's clinic where they take in prostitutes and help them with recovery or with injury. And it's just this little story about Worm, who is a little street orphan that they took into the clinic as well, who lives there with them, and he witnesses a woman being kidnapped and becomes kind of obsessed with like helping her and finding out what happened to her. And so Squeaky and Worm go on this little adventure together to try to solve the mystery of this missing woman. And you know, it was a nice little story. They're very short, and they have a nice overall feeling to them and a nice little wrap up at the end. So I thought that one was quite enjoyable, and I will most likely revisit more in future. I don't know if there's any more audio books on Libby, the Libby app, that I can listen to for future, but I will certainly look into it for next year. Hello everybody. So I finished two books in the last 2 days, which I'm going to wrap up for you here. This one I just finished this morning, The Christmas Sisters by Sarah Morgan. I really enjoyed this. This was, if you know, I think it's interesting as a reader, you think that you're not into certain genres, and you may, like for me, I will only speak for myself. I definitely have at times been like, I'm not a romance reader, I'm not a contemporary women's fiction reader. I struggle to find writers that write in a way that I enjoy that genre. Sarah Morgan, I can clearly say, is somebody that writes in a way that I enjoy it. This focuses on three sisters, Hannah, Beth, and Posey, and their mother, Suzanne. So you get alternating chapters from their perspectives, and you follow the story. There's wonderful relationship dynamics in here between the sisters themselves, between the sisters and their parents, between the sisters and their partners. It's got a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of interesting careers in here. The characters all have these very well-rounded lives where you're learning about not just their love interest, but also who they are as people and what they want out of life. And to me, that's the kind of romance that I enjoy. I want there to be a wider picture of the characters involved. This is set in New York and Scotland, mostly in Scotland. And so obviously a wonderful setting for a Christmas story. Small town versus, the sisters who live away and the one sister who stayed at home. There is a really interesting backstory for how these sisters came to be in this family. So it's not your typical, nuclear family development. There's like a really compelling and kind of harrowing backstory that weaves its way through the whole story and makes all of the relationships very complex, and all the characters very complex, and that's what I like. So I would actually compare this to Rosamund Pilcher's work, and I don't tend to read much of Rosamund Pilcher anymore because you know, obviously she was writing in the 90s, and so there's a little bit of a datedness to her writing, but her book, The Winter Solstice, or Winter Solstice, was one of, I think that was her last book, also set around Christmas time. I really, really enjoyed, and I would put this, you know, in a similar category to that in terms of, this felt like a rom-com movie, like a great Christmas movie that you can watch in a couple hours. I mean, I read this over the course of 4 days. I read it really fast. It reads really quickly. You want to know what's going to happen. You're very compelled by the story, but you feel like you've really, you know, watched something heartwarming in the end, and watched characters who have evolved and changed and accepted new parts of their lives. So I really enjoyed this. It was really great, and I think that I will definitely put Sarah Morgan and Rebecca Raisin. I would say I liked this one more than The Little Bookshop by the Seine, but I would put both of those authors into a category of me exploring more of their work at different times. So if I'm feeling like I want something, you know, immersive and contemporary to read, I think I would search out Sarah Morgan's work or Rebecca Raisin, and you know, throw them into a TBR when I'd like something kind of lighter, but still with like a really nice amount of substance and authenticity to it. So yeah, really enjoyed this. And I also finished A Ghost in the Throat by Doireann Ghriofa. I won't talk too much about this here because I have done a deep dive reading vlog all about this book. I go chapter by chapter through it throughout the month of December. So if you would like to know my thoughts about this book, I would definitely say head on over and watch that reading vlog. If you want a quick synopsis, this is a nonfiction memoir style, but also kind of investigation research-based story where Doireann Ghriofa is talking about her life as a mother, her life as a woman, her life as a creative, and her obsession with this a keen for art lagohair, which is a keen that was written in the 18th century by a woman named Evelyn Douve, and she looks for this woman. She searches for all the translations of this keen, and she becomes obsessed with it. And so you're kind of in her head as she's obsessed with this story, and it also ties in with a lot of her experience of childbirth, child rearing, and being a mom in so many ways, but also being compelled to make her art at the same time. She doesn't go into that as a topic necessarily, but you experience that as you're moving through the seasons of her doing this research work while also raising young children. So I definitely recommend this. Both of these, by the way, were 5 stars for me. Both 5 stars. So really good end to my reading month. I don't think I'm going to be finishing another book in December at this stage. We've got about 5 days left of the month. Where are we? What day is it today? That's always this crazy. So today's the 27th. And yeah, I doubt I'm going to finish another book before the end of December. So I'm going to leave you here, and I will be back again soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching.